How is everyone today?
Good, thanks, Michelle.
Yeah.
I just finished night shift.
Oh, yuck.
Yep.
Feeling like a wet dish rag.
Is that for, you're a nurse, aren't you, Danielle?
Yeah, yep.
You must be so tired.
Yeah, I'll see how long I can hang in for. I've got to go back tonight, so.
Yeah, wow. So, just while we're waiting for other people to join, I guess the news of the day, did you get an email from Dave?
Yes.
About going back next week? How are you feeling about that?
No, I didn't get an email.
Super excited.
I'm like I just got used to this routine now to get up earlier.
Me too.
Oh.
I didn't get the email, so is anyone able to forward it to me?
There's no other information there, Rubes, just that we're going back. He hasn't sent out like class details or anything just yet.
Okay.
I thought we were online until the end of this term and then we're going back next term, so yeah.
Yeah, no, we always said we'd review it a few weeks in. So because now the government's changed their, the rules again, then we've been able to say that we can go back, and we've been monitoring class sizes and things like that as well. So, so that the deal is that from Monday, so i.e. this time next week, we'll be in the classroom. I don't know what room yet because Dave's got to redo a timetable to allocate rooms. But that's where we'll be.
What's parking like there?
Oh, there's heaps of parking, but it depends what time you get there. Sometimes you have to park around the back of L block.
Yeah.
There's always parking there.
There's always parking at the back of the our block, which is D, is it, Michelle?
L.
God. Yeah. So do you know Mount Druitt, TAFE at all, or Mount Druitt at all?
No.
I guess if you just go into the last entrance for L block, and then it's like right at the back. There's parking at the front, there's parking at the side. We just go right to the back. That side's taken by like the plumbing boys and all that, and the front just gets filled really quickly.
Yeah.
There's always parking at the back though.
Yeah, so you come in, Danielle, on North Parade, which runs along the railway line.
Okay.
So, yeah, take that last gate, which is it gate 2 or 3? It might be 3. I think it's gate 3, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And you just go to, are there signs like saying L block or?
Yes, but
as soon as you come in there, L block's to the right. That's the building we're in. But you just follow the road. It's not a very long road. You just follow it to the back of the building. You'll sort of get a sense when you see it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And then our classes are probably on level 2, and it's a weird building, Danielle, because on one end of L, like on the western end, there's only 2 levels, and so the higher one is level 1, which is where the staff are, but on the other side there's 3 levels, and the highest one is level 2, and we're usually up there.
Okay.
But just ask someone and they'll help you. So Dave will send out this week a timetable with room numbers on it, so that we can find out where we are. Yeah. And I don't know any more detail than that. So I'm yet to see whether I'll be teaching in a mask. I might need to, which will be pretty yucky. But anyway, we'll see how we go. Things you want to talk about before we get started? Nope. Okay. Well, my thought of the day is around the power of thoughts. So I just had it there while you were waiting to come in. But this morning in health promotion, we're just going to look at a little bit more detail. You know, last week was sort of, well, I showed you a little clip, and in it, it talked about the Ottawa Charter. Do you remember that? Today, we're going to explore that a little bit more. And to that end, I don't know whether it's useful or not to watch that small clip again, because we're going to dissect the Ottawa Charter with one of the health promotion frameworks or strategies that we have in this country over a health issue. Oh, you wanted to go over the assessment, yeah. So we'll have a look at that, perhaps after we explore this, because it might sort of start some thoughts around what your health promotion strategy or early intervention strategy will be. So would it be helpful to watch this small clip again?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because he does go through it pretty quick, and then we'll have a look at that Ottawa Charter in a bit more detail. So I'll play that. I'll just turn the camera off.
We're going to have a look at health promotion, a very important part of public health and an essential component in any public health program. We'll talk about what it is and have a look at the Ottawa Charter, which outlines some of the important principles of health promotion. So, what is health promotion? Health promotion is defined as the process of enabling people to increase control over and to improve their health. In essence, health promotion is about improving health. But what is health? Well, the World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being rather than a mere absence of disease or infirmary. Good health is not determined by a single factor. A variety of factors such as social, environmental, and economic conditions have an impact on health. These factors not only impact health, but can also make it easier or more difficult for people to make changes to their health. Because of this, health promotion tries to improve health not only by targeting people at an individual level to change their behavior, but by taking a comprehensive approach addressing a broad spectrum of health factors and determinants. Over time, the importance of health promotion has received global attention. In 1986, the first International Conference of Health Promotion was organized by the World Health Organization. It was held in Ottawa, Canada, and an outcome of this conference was the creation of a document called the Ottawa Charter. This was a landmark document and has been influential in providing guidance to the goals and concepts of health promotion. The principles set out in the Charter are still used in health promotion activities today. Since the meeting in Ottawa, there have been other international health promotion meetings which have expanded on other health promotion themes. Now, let's take a closer look at the key components of the Ottawa Charter. The Ottawa Charter describes 5 action areas and 3 strategies to achieve health. Let's talk about the action areas first before we get into the strategies. The 5 action areas are building healthy public policy, creating supportive environments, strengthening community action, developing personal skills, and reorienting health services. Building healthy public policy is the process of developing policies that support health by not only protecting the health of individuals and communities, but also making it easier for people to make healthy choices. This is done by a coordinated approach of legislative, regulatory, organizational, and taxation changes. Healthy policies are not made just by health departments, but from all levels and sectors of government and other organizations. A few examples of healthy public policies are laws requiring people to wear seatbelts and helmets, smoking restrictions, and workplace health and safety regulations. Moving on to creating supportive environments. The environment that people live in, both the natural and built environment, are closely linked to their health. So this action area focuses on places that people live in, their communities, where they work, learn, or play. It aims to increase the ability of people to make health-promoting choices while in those settings. Some examples of this are activities such as promoting health in the workplace, restrictions on junk food advertising for children, and strengthening links between environments and people like walking or running programs. The next action area is strengthening community action. This refers to the collective efforts of communities to improve their health. To give you some examples, community fun runs that promote people to be active, community kitchens that promote healthy eating, and community-based organizations that support people living with HIV/AIDS are all community efforts to improve health. The fourth action area is reorienting health services. Health systems have traditionally been medically dominated and have focused on an individual's curative and treatment needs. This action area aims to make health systems focus more on supporting the needs of people and communities for a healthy life. It takes into consideration the total needs of an individual and encourages health services to focus on strengthening protective factors, reducing risk factors, and improving on the social determinants of health. Let's look at some of the examples of reorienting health services. These include training doctors to assess and educate patients, smoking, establishing health educator roles within medical centers to coordinate preventative activities, and improving access to health services for culturally and linguistically diverse populations. Lastly, developing personal skills focuses on supporting personal and social development. This is done by providing information, education, and enhancing life skills to make positive health choices. Examples of this are online programs that provide information on heart disease, distributing educational material on the effects of diabetes, and classes that teach people on how to manage disease. Now that we've covered the 5 action areas, let's talk about the 3 strategies that the Ottawa Charter identified for health promotion. These are to advocate, mediate, and enable. To advocate is to use a combination of individual and social actions to obtain political commitment, policy support, and social systems that support a health goal. To mediate is the process by which different interests of individuals and communities, and also different sectors like public and private sectors, are reconciled in ways that promote and protect health. To enable means that health promotion activities to improve health are taken in partnership with individuals so that they're empowered to take actions to protect and promote their health. And that's the overview of health promotion and the Ottawa Charter in a nutshell.
Okay, so maybe hearing it the second time makes a little bit more sense, I'm hoping. Are some people going to turn their cameras on? That would be nice. Thank you. Okay, so, and that's what the Ottawa Charter looks like as a diagram. Okay, so it becomes important, I guess, in terms of your program that you're going to come up with, because you might have noticed that one of the things that he said was where individuals and groups can advocate, mediate, enable. So it's important at that point. And also, he talked about their risk and protective factors, which we're going to talk a lot more about next week. But essentially, when we work in health promotion, we are trying to reduce risk factors and increase protective factors. So your program will probably have some sort of component around that. And it also talked to the determinants of health. So we'll look at that a bit more today, and that also will be informative for you. Oh, hi, Sam. You back?
Yeah, I'm back to do it again.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just a bit late because I dropped my coffee all over the floor.
Oh, nice. Nice way to start the day.
Yes.
Not. All right.
Good morning, Sarah. Good morning. Sorry for late.
So the Ottawa action areas, we said, was about firstly building healthy public policy. So it's around having those broader frameworks so that people can make healthier choices. And it should be around all public policy, okay? So if you think of something like tobacco, you know, there's taxation policy, yeah? So cigarettes are taxed really highly, trying to influence behaviour, making them more expensive. Things like various rules have come into place. So, you know, not being able to smoke in inside spaces, not being able to smoke in your car with children in it, you know, those sorts of things. So they're the sort of examples at that healthy public policy level. So environments which support healthy living. So it's saying that in both the natural and built environment, we should have ways that people can access those environments in a healthy way. Can you think of any examples about how that happens in our world to promote health? What do you think, Jackie?
I guess just to go with the smoking example, like, sorry if you can, that's my dog in the background, sorry. With the smoking example, like you cannot smoke in shopping centres anymore, anywhere in closed areas, no restaurants. And even if you want to smoke outside, you need to have that 5 metre rule so the entrance remains a healthy space for people to enter buildings. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. So that's environment and public policy too, isn't it? Like both things interceding. Yeah, and like government, government facilities allow any smoking. That's why I see all the nurses.
Hospitals, yeah, yep.
Yep. But it's also things like having green environments, spaces in communities. It's about things like bike paths, wide footpaths so that people who are infirm can still use those paths. What other examples are there? Having good public transport infrastructure. Those things are part of it as well. What were you thinking, Ruby?
Could it be for the people that have disabilities, the ramps that are all over, can be schools, shopping centres. Is that one of them?
Yeah, I guess so, because it's about the environment and having people being able to access it, isn't it? So it's one thing to have environments, but if a proportion of the population can't access it, then that's inequitable as well. Yeah. Okay. So strengthening community action. So, sorry, Atia, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just saying, how about creating environment for disabled people so they can move easily and they can have access to different facilities easily? Is it considered as health environment?
Yeah, yep. That's about access, that's right. So strengthening community actions about, communities themselves being self-determining, so that communities have input into their health outcomes and what they need. Can anyone think of how that might look in our society? How might communities have input and be self-determining? Groups?
The community may get together and actually organise what's the word? Not too sure, but like the community is getting together, so they're taking action. So obviously that's strengthening for the whole community because it's people that are around them, I guess, like in their area.
Yeah, and how do communities do that? Like, do you have any ideas?
They can kind of talk about it, and then a whole group of people may be interested in it, and then they come together and then they plan out what they could say, how they could say it, and how it could be advocated, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Good. Jackie, what were your thoughts?
I was thinking sort of along the same lines as Ruby, but, like having community groups, and then I guess they would have to take it to their local politician or MP who runs for that particular council. And I don't know, for some reason I had this example of like, the right lighting at night time around certain communities, so people feel safe and, like shade cloths over in parks so children aren't getting sunburnt while they're playing. I don't know if I'm on the right track there or not.
Yeah, so it's about communities identifying what the needs might be in their area, and then trying to influence local government or policymakers to create a change. And often those things are brought to people's attention through local newspapers. You know, they often highlight those community actions. A good example in Western Sydney there is the one around the big incinerator. Did you guys hear about that large incinerator they wanted to put in? So in some parts of Europe, because we've got a rubbish problem in our society, like we're running out of open fill tips space, right? And so one of the solutions is to burn it at really, really high temperatures. And they were proposing to put one, I don't know where now, but somewhere in that sort of Blacktowny kind of area. And there was a lot of community outrage about it going in Western Sydney, you know, because of the potential health impacts on the environment. And then there's all those argy-bargy arguments then that go, well, it's actually clean and here's the evidence, and then the community's saying, but here's some other evidence that says it's not. So, you know, people often become aware of issues like that through local news sources. Jackie?
I know, you just gave me an idea. Like, is that something like, remember we had the ADI site that ran from the back of St. Mary's up until what is now known as Jordan Springs?
Mm-hmm.
I know the community groups lobbied for years and years. Like, I was a small child when that started, and then like up until like when I was in my early 30s, I think, or late 20s, they started building on it. So for years they tried to keep that site safe for the animals. You know, there was a lot of native fauna and flora in there, and eventually they got their own way because we now have Jordan Springs.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of an example. I guess what makes that one a bit different is that the community couldn't access that site.
No, yeah, that's true. Yeah. It was just for the native fauna and flora. Yeah.
But certainly an example of community action.
Yeah.
But other ways, and Catherine sort of writes in here, might be those little local initiatives like, you know, the park runs that are put on in most areas. So every Saturday morning, can't say I'm one of them, people will do that sort of 5K run. So they're sort of local initiatives. And it might be around funding to community groups to do certain things in areas that improve the environment and speak to the community's needs. It might be around something like youth groups or youth organisations saying there's no space for young people, and them lobbying and working with government to try to create healthy public spaces for young people. Yeah. It could be around to programs that I don't know, I'll use youth as an example, that they might run to educate and advocate for certain things for young people. So developing personal skills, so about people having access to information that help them to make better decisions in their lives. And better health choices. Can you think of examples that might fit that category?
Those community centres.
Tell me more.
I feel like when I go to like certain suburbs, they have these like community centres where it's like a big hall. I don't know if they hold meetings in there, or you can go and grab information. I'm not like 100% sure.
Yep. So if none of you have done this, I would suggest you do, that you hunt out your local community centre and go and pay them a visit, because most people don't know what goes on there. And they run a whole heap of things. So they do have access to information. Sometimes they might have funding to run a program around, I don't know, some sort of health information issue, yeah. They run a variety of things, and they're the sort of things that really, when you're working with people in our sector, you should know what's around, because they're the sort of mainstream type community things that you often want to tap people into. So you've got to know how to access them, and you've got to know what's there, and they change depending on the location that you're in, because they're meant to meet the needs of that community. So, for instance, where I live, there's a higher older population, and so our community centre run a lot of things that cater to the needs of more elderly people in the community. But it might also be, you know, health run quit smoking programs, and, you know, a whole range of sort of health promoting programs, so that it gives people the information they need. Yeah.
Michelle, would parenting programs be the same?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right. Because, you know, a lot of like up here, we have a program called Parenting Young. And so it's a program that supports young parents in their parenting role. So they often are ostracised, because a lot, you know, the data is now that people having babies are more likely to be in their 30s. And so if you're 18 and having a baby, you can be quite isolated, I suppose, from that mainstream group. So, yeah, they have that. And so that'll be around, you know, feeding your children, you know, nutritional information. It'll be around behaviours, all of those sorts of things. So, yeah, that's a good example. Yep. And reorienting healthcare. So it's about moving away, I guess, from that purely medical model to have services that are in communities and able to be accessed in a preventative way. So not waiting until there's a major problem and being reactive. Yeah. So it's looking at it the other way around. Can you think about examples in your community where that might happen? On the baby front, what about early childhood health centres? So often they exist in the community, in a community setting. So they'll be in schools often, and it's where there's an early childhood nurse, and, you know, you go there for X number of months or whatever after your baby's born, and they talk to you about postnatal depression, and they do screening for that. They talk about any breastfeeding problems or other feeding problems you might be having, and can tap you into other services should you need it, should it be identified. But that's certainly one. What were you thinking, Karen?
Yeah, with the early childhood centres, so my daughter got into one at the community centre in Penrith, and they helped me get all the services I need that I didn't know existed. And she also attended a play gym before kindergarten. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good example. What about, have any of you, well, we're all women here? Yes, we are. So how many of you know about women's health centres?
I actually don't know which one's around me.
Yeah, you're in the Hawkesbury?
Yeah, like Richmond.
Yep. Now, I don't know if Richmond have one.
But we're very, very rural. Like, we don't have many. There's only one women's organisation, which is the Women's Shed.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all we have around us for like 20 kilometres.
Yeah, and it's very typical of more rural places, although you could mount an argument that, geez, Richmond's really right in the Sydney Basin, really, these days. But some areas have what's known as women's health centres. In my area, so there's one at Katoomba, and so they're about meeting the specific health needs of women and having a space that is non-threatening. only females can access it. So there's GP services, and they specialise in women's health issues. They often also have counsellors. The one up here has a young women's group. They might do something like an art group. So trying to reduce isolation, and also having an art therapist there so that young women can work through various issues that they might have. But again, it's about tapping them then into the services because women are actually accessing it. They'll have DV-based information and groups. So, yeah, Jackie.
Yeah, we have Penrith Women's Health on the corner of Henry Street and Station Street in Penrith.
Mm-hmm.
It's in a really old building, so it's been there for a very long time, and they offer so many services down to, GP, gynecology services, counselling, DV counselling. They run all different types of groups, AOD counselling. There's so much stuff that comes out of it, and it's all community-based, so it's all free.
It's all free, that's right. And yeah, so many women don't know about women's health services. Crazy. You can even usually go and book in and get a free massage, people, right? It's just stuff like that. It's just women's space. So where it is in Penrith, that's actually the old council building. So yeah, the Women's Health Centre hasn't always been there, but it does sit there, and it also sits there with a DV service, like they co-locate in that building. The wash house is a bit different. So the wash house is not a women's health centre per se. It is a DV service. So it does work in prevention, but also in responding to women and children in domestic and family violence relationships. The one in the Women's Health Service in that area is Blacktown Women's and Girls Centre. So each service will have slightly different configuration to it, but they exist in some of those bigger communities. So there'll be a couple in the city somewhere. I know there's one in Wollongong. Do you know what I mean? But they're not in every small community. But they're good examples of that reorientation of health. And Women's Health Centres started in the 70s. Ruby?
I was just going to ask, the wash house, is that in Blacktown?
It's in Mount Druitt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it just actually sits at the back of Dawson Mall.
Okay,
it's a little purple building.
It's on Myrtis Crescent.
Sort of thing behind the library there. All right, so that's what it kind of looks like. We could pick any one of those topics we just spoke about and have examples in each of these action areas, all right? But we're going to look at them over one. So we're going to look at one of the federal government promotion strategies.
I don't even know if I'm in the right meeting.
Oh, hello, Deborah.
Oh, how are you going?
Who do you think you're meant to be?
I've no idea. I'm in the Diploma of Youth Work. I only started last Thursday with Peter.
Right.
And I'm supposed to be doing something today. I've just spent half an hour trying to get in.
Right. Where you are right now is Michelle's classroom, and this will be your 1:30 class today.
Okay, right.
So you are meant to be somewhere else this morning.
Yeah, I think he said with is it Gay or Gail or Gay or?
But you should have a timetable. Got this link. It probably came with a timetable.
Yeah, I have nothing. I don't even. He just sent me a link on Thursday, and I was able to join the class, but I don't know what else I'm supposed to be doing.
Okay. Well, because I'm in the middle of a class, Deborah,
no, that's fine. I'll
really help. I suggest you give Dave a call.
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
And email you your timetable.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'll see you in this class at 1:30.
Okay. Thank you for your help.
If you're are you stage 1? Brand new?
Yeah, I don't know. What?
Okay. Okay.
I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah.
Give Dave a call and
I will do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks
ya.
for your help. Okay. Bye.
I wondered who that was. Okay. All right. So we're going to, what was I saying? Look at the government's a health promotion strategy of the government, which is around the binge drinking strategy. And what I'm going to give you a whole bunch of all the different components of that strategy. And I want you to tell me what action area they go in. So these are the action areas if you want to write them down. And so in 2008, our national binge drinking strategy was created. And it was meant to address binge drinking amongst young people. So just quickly write down those action areas and we'll try to link them. Or take a photo. That might be quicker. Tell me when I'm ready to move on. Good to go? Okay. So let's look at the first one. So the government was investing $14.4 million in community level initiatives to confront the culture of binge drinking, especially in sporting organisations. Which area do you think that goes into?
Sorry, Michelle, are you on a different slide? I just can't. I'm seeing that it says in 2008 the Prime Minister announced.
I have moved on.
Okay, maybe it's that my computer's lagging. I don't know.
It must be. I have noticed that a bit when you're speaking today, so might be a bit slow. Okay, Jackie.
No, I'm still on the Ottawa action areas as well.
Really?
I'm not. I'm National Binge Drinking Strategy 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. I'm on the next.
Yeah, but is that not under the Ottawa action areas?
So I've got the action areas listed there in the different coloured text, and then underneath that I have the different components of the strategy.
Yeah, I don't see that.
Okay, well, I don't know what to do about that because it's there. So it might be just lagging. Maybe, I don't know how you can refresh or anything, but I'll read it out. So the first one was investing $14.4 million in community level initiatives to confront the culture of binge drinking, especially in sporting organisations. Jackie, what are your thoughts?
I'm actually thinking it's to be put under create supportive environments.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually putting in money to create and confront the culture of binge drinking and to educate, I suppose, especially in the sporting organisations.
Yeah, I can see why you'd think that. But actually that one's in public policy, building healthy public.
Okay, that was my second choice, yeah.
Yep, good. So that's what we're going to do with each of these and just see how they fit. Rubes?
I was going to say building, healthy public policy because it's actually, how do I explain it? It's like it's for the health, like it's related to health.
Yeah.
And they're building like, I don't know what the word is, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and it's about government policy to fund small organisations to tackle that. Yep. All right, what about the next one? Investigate options in relation to closing hours, responsible service of alcohol, reckless secondary supply of alcohol and the alcohol content in ready-to-drink beverages. Can't say that one's been successful. Where do you think that goes?
Public health policy.
Okay. Any other?
Create a healthy environment.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Because it's about, you know, how long venues are open. Maybe there's been a lot of debate in Sydney over that, because for a while they closed early. Do you remember that, into key areas in Sydney and around the Cross?
Especially King's Cross, yeah, they had that. They had
Yeah.
that. They called it something, Michelle.
Yeah.
My tongue now. Sorry, I can't think of it, but they called it something. The Cross never closed.
Yeah.
And they're closing it
That's
like
back now, like they've relaxed it, but it was in response to this binge drinking issue and linked to violence associated with binge drinking. Yeah. But of course, with all of these, there's a lot of pushback from other areas of the community, isn't there? Lockout laws, that's right. That's what Catherine wrote in the thing. That's what they were called. You know, there's a lot of pushback. So, of course, businesses wanted the hours to be extended, yeah. Things like alcohol content in ready-to-drink beverages. My God, have you ever seen the alcohol content and that stuff that is marketed to young people? It's like, oh, I don't know, because I don't really, but I've seen it, and it's really, really high, and it's like, tastes like soft drink, you know, so it's all designed to really promote binge drinking. So those companies, they push back, but this was the policy at the time. All right, what about another one? What about community level initiatives to confront the culture of binge drinking? We already said that one, didn't we? But it's a bit different. It's not about the funding. Okay, so community initiatives to confront the culture of binge drinking. Where would that go?
Oh, sorry, my hand.
It's all right, go.
So would it be strengthen community actions, because it's got the community inside that little.
Yeah, that's right. It is. So it's about the community coming together to say, well, what can we do to address this issue in our community, you know, and looking at it through that local lens. What were your thoughts, Sam?
I was just going to say the same thing.
Yeah, okay. Yep. All right, good. What about TV, radio and internet campaigns that confront young people with the costs and consequences of binge drinking? Where would that fit?
Could be reorient health service.
No, probably not. What's the point of that one, Jackie, do you think?
I think the point of that one is to develop personal skill.
That's it.
Yeah, because they give them more tips and strategies to, like, peer pressure and all that type of stuff to get around and that stuff. So, yeah.
So it's aimed at the individual to educate and inform them. And that's what that developing personal skills is about. Yeah, good. What about early intervention initiatives to focus on cultures and environments, as well as placing a new emphasis on personal responsibility and improved decision-making skills?
Develop personal skills.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Because it's about building up people's ability to make better choices. Yeah, cool. What about an interactive, internet-based game? Don't turn a night out into a nightmare. Do you remember those ads on telly? It's designed to encourage teenagers and young adults to think about the choices they make about drinking and the possible negative consequences of excessive alcohol consumption. And the harms can include health problems, injury, violence, social problems, including the breakdown of relationships.
That be create supportive environment.
Yeah, supportive environment.
what are we doing in that one though? Who are we targeting and in what way? So think about that third line. So we're trying to target actual young people and teenagers themselves about their choices. Jackie, what
Michelle,
are your...
could you just read again what, I just don't have the slide up. Could you read again that little blurb that you read out?
So it's an interactive internet-based game, and it's targeted to teenagers and young people, and it's targeting them to have a think about the choices they make in response to alcohol consumption. So Jackie?
Yeah, I think that one is under develop personal skill again.
Yeah.
And I think it could also strengthen the community as well, like the community action as well. I don't know, I feel like there was the two of them in that one, but definitely personal skill at the top.
Yeah, that's exactly where it fits. That's right. Yep. Okay, what about diversion programs to get young people under the age of 18 back on track before more serious alcohol-related problems emerge? Diversion program. Ruby?
Because it's like an actual, like it's a full-on program, would that be building healthy public policy? Because it's I don't know, I feel like it's because the other ones are not, it's like they're advocating that it's not right, like what binge drinking and everything like does, but then this is actually like a program.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's not about community action. Is that what you said?
No, building healthy public policy.
Oh, yeah, no, it's not that one. I'll see what Jackie thinks.
I think it's create supportive environments because it's a program to teach the teenagers.
It's actually about reorienting health services.
Okay.
Yeah, as Catherine wrote there, I can see now. So yeah, because it's a program that's designed to, it's an early intervention one, yeah, because it's designed to get in early before problems become endemic. Yeah. And it's targeted at people who already have some issues in that regard. What about funding to communities to develop local solutions to address youth binge drinking within their own community?
Healthy public policy?
At the community level, what do you think, Sam?
I'm not sure, but I would think maybe it's creating a supportive environment.
Yeah, I can see how you think that. But if we think about it in terms of communities determining their own solutions, I'm wondering what you think, Jackie?
I'm thinking strengthen community action.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Good. And what about this? Funding to expand the Good Sports initiative of the Australian Drug Foundation to support local sporting clubs to build a culture of responsible drinking. Who's got their hand up? Sam, or is yours up from before? Okay.
No, it was. I just I thought maybe reorientate health services.
Why did you think that?
Yeah, I don't exactly know. I thought that like it came into my head and then, but I'm sorry because I don't have the slide in front of me. I can't. Like I can't remember what it says, so I'm not sure.
You're quite right. Let's see if someone can think about why it might sit there. What do you think, Karen? I just saw your hand.
Oh, I was going to say develop personal skills, but yeah, it was a toss-up.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it was a toss-up between reorienting to health, like health services and develop skills.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's so yeah, just educating basically. So that's why I thought it was develop personal skills.
Okay. Yep. I know some of them are tricky, aren't they, to determine. Can anyone with their hand up, I don't know if you're answering this question or not, tell me why you think it might sit under that reorienting of health services? Jackie, can you respond to that?
So I was thinking something completely different to all what the girls have said. But I guess the answer to that question, to reorientate, is to re-educate the sporting groups, I guess, on the culture of drinking. I'm a bit blank actually, because I was going to say something completely different.
Well, I think the reason that it's about reorienting health services is because we're at the Australian Drug Foundation now, which is more of a community-based organisation rather than, you know, a mainstream health service that tends to respond late, you know, when there's already a problem. So that's why I would think it goes under that kind of an approach. What about a task force to develop a national preventative strategy which will focus on excessive alcohol consumption as well as obesity and tobacco?
Public health, public policy.
I think something else. What do you think, Sam?
Sorry, I was actually going to say public policy as well.
Okay. Anyone else have a different thought, Ruth?
I was going to say reorientate again health services, because it's like I don't have it up on the screen because my computer's lagging, but from what I remember you saying, for me it sounds like it was community based.
Yeah.
And then it also sounds like it was trying to get in there early.
Exactly. That's what makes it that preventative. So it's about changing the model of health service provision so that we're not, I don't know, like that would be a detox centre, right, in a hospital, that traditional model. So it's about changing it. Hold on, how about we get back to this level and think about prevention? So that's what makes it about reorienting those health services. Yeah. Okay, so we're nearly there. What about community organisations working with local police to address underage drinking? Jackie?
Yeah, I think that one is strengthening community action.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely fits there. Solmas, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. Yeah, the same as Jackie, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So it's about trying to find those local solutions that are going to look different in different communities, isn't it? And you know, surely part of that is around consulting parents, schools, you know, all of those sorts of things within a community. What about closing the dangerous tax break for alco pops, which encourages young people to binge drink?
Building healthy public policies?
Yeah, that's right. Because government can control that tax, because those drinks are very cheap. So they can tax them, which means that they make them less attractive. What about 19 million to intervene earlier to assist young people and ensure that they assume personal responsibility for their binge drinking? It's a tricky one. Ruby?
I'm thinking two, but it can probably only be one of them. I'm going to say reorientate health services again. Trying to get in there earlier to help prevent it for them. But then
I can see why you'd say that.
Yeah, but then I don't know. Then I'm leaning towards also developing personal skills, because it's kind of like it's something that they can learn and it's educating them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm stuck on both of them.
You were right on the second go. So I think that the key there was that about helping people to take that personal responsibility is around building those personal skills. Yeah. Good. Last one. What about Commonwealth Government support by 19 local communities for grassroots programs to help tackle binge drinking by young people? Commonwealth Government support should be the key there. I might hear from Karen. What do you think?
Strengthen community actions.
I can see why you say that.
They're helping them do it. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, they're tricky, aren't they? But it's actually something different. What do you think, Sam? Oh no, your hand went down. Jackie?
Because I thought the same thing, yeah.
I'm thinking build healthy public policy because of the government support.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's about, well, government are going to have this funding program to go up, into those communities. And it's very specific, isn't it? It says 19 local communities, which means they're targeted communities. So there must be identified issues within those particular communities. Yeah. Yeah. Good. So that, and we've got a few of these strategies in Australia. I don't know. I've tried to look up to see whether they're being renewed, and I can't find information on it. So my guess is they're not. But we have them like around things like driving. We have them around this, binge drinking. There's a couple of others. So, you know, things sort of when they approach a public health issue like this, it is looked at through the lens of that Ottawa Charter. And, you know, the idea is that you spread those strategies across so it's a broad approach. And you're not just chucking money at something over there. That's not going to work. It's got to, you know, cover a whole range of areas. All right.
Well, Michelle, I'm sorry. Does that mean I'm a bit confused? Can one, just say you take one of the things that we just talked about, can it fit into two different categories?
I think they can, but when they divvy them up and look at it through that lens that we've just been looking at, they only put them through in one.
Okay.
Yeah. But like I say, they're trying to get a spread of strategies across all of those areas. Jackie, your hand's up.
Yeah, I was just thinking, excuse me, is this also like, you know, like the Slip Slop Slap campaign, and there's a new one out at the moment for teaching young children how to swim. Would these like apply to those as well?
Yeah. Whether they have a full-on strategy like that, I don't know. Probably for what I do know, back in the day, they had one for skin cancer because I mean at that time, I mean those of you like me who are old and got age spots everywhere from sun baking with baby oil for hours at a time, would know that there was a lot of work to be done to change that culture because, you know, skin cancer rates in this country are phenomenal. So, yeah, there was that Slip Slop Slap campaign. There was, you know, stuff in schools. So, you know, like no hat, no
play. Yep.
You know, that's that policy level stuff. So that one, yes, was done under that. I'm not sure about, what was the other example you said?
There's another one just recently that I've been hearing on the radio, and it's got the old head swimming coach from the Australian swimming team. They've got like strategies for helping or to teach young children how to swim and stay safe around the pool.
Yeah. And, you know, that one, it should be done, in my view. I think it's a real gap because I know there's $100 now, it's new, to families, a voucher that they can use for swimming lessons. But that's nothing. Like if any of you have ever had kids in swimming lessons, it doesn't happen once, you know, like it's every term and it's for years and it's really costly. It's hundreds of dollars every term for one child, let alone if you've got more. So, yeah, that's one I think there's a real social inequity problem because you can only afford to teach your kids to swim if you've got money. and you're educated as to how important it is and all of those sorts of things. You know, they have the little programs in schools, but that's 1 week a year generally, you know, for an hour or whatever it is. So, yeah, it doesn't really cut the bill. And just this last week on Friday, I think it was, because my kids have been lifesavers and in the pools, but a friend of mine, their son also is, and a boy drowned and he saved him. He had to do CPR on him, and like that's pretty full on. Hey,
That is so traumatic. I feel like, I mean, these lifesavers, you know, some of them do it for free, you know, at the beaches and stuff, and it sounds like a really traumatic job, you know, saving someone's life when putting action. Yeah,
it's a huge issue. Yeah, Ruby.
I was going to ask if I could say another example and ask if it was related to build healthy public policy. So the I don't know if you've heard on the news or Facebook, but they're now implementing consent education from year 7 up to year 10. So could that be building healthy public policy because it's from the government that have enforced it in the curriculum?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. They probably don't have a strategy for that looks like this, but they should. Hey,
I just
forced into that. I mean, this is where, you know, our health environment is politically motivated, you know, and it's where we as a community really should be taking action to direct where that change goes. Like, where are we, 2022, and we're only starting to talk about consent, you know, in schools? Like, that's ridiculous. And most people don't understand what consent actually is. But Kylie and I, in our youth work program, we've been doing that for many, many years with year 6 children, you know. So to me, it's not groundbreaking. We've been doing it, but it hasn't been being done by schools. It hasn't been being done as a policy, you know, like you say, by government. Yeah. It would happen probably in some discrete, like, youth programs and things like that. But that's different to this broader approach, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So these are known as the determinants of illness, these broad areas. So they're the risk conditions, psychosocial factors, behavioural factors, and physiological factors. Risk factors, that is. So the determinants of illness are about an increase in mortality, morbidity, and a decrease in well-being. So we'll have a look at what those are. So risk conditions are such things as poverty, low social status, dangerous and stressful work, a dangerous or polluted environment, natural resource depletion, the greenhouse effect, so our broader environment, and our ozone depletion, discrimination, having a steep power hierarchy, and the dominant ideologies of individualism. Anyone, pick one of those things and let's talk about it. Why do you think that those things are in a risk condition category? Sam.
I would think perhaps with the dominant ideologies of individualism, I'm not quite sure if I'm on the right track, but I would kind of think, you know, like 40 years ago, white Australia, how that would alienate, say, Aboriginal people, and even today, there's still a lot of prejudice against Aboriginal people by white people. So they're kind of putting it like white people like they sometimes act dominant, like over individual. Is that kind of, am I thinking the right way?
I think you are, but I think your thinking aligns with that discrimination as a risk condition.
Okay.
Yeah. Dominant ideologies of individualism is this. It's around saying, oh, actually, the environment and society has nothing to do with the health choices that you make. It's only about you. So it's only you can control what goes in your mouth. Only you can control how much physical activity you do. It's you that decides how much fruit and vegetables are in your diet. And it's not acknowledging all of those other determinants that are in our environment, you know? So it is a particularly dominant ideology in our society, I believe, and it comes across a lot from particular sways of government, and I think a lot in, I don't know, commercial media outlets, you know? That's what I see. Yeah, so that's what that one's about. It's saying, well, it's about your willpower, you know, it's all your fault, basically. Ruby, what are your thoughts?
I really think that I see this in books, in novels like that I'm reading. So they're real like stories, but they're like motivational speakers and stuff.
Mm.
And I actually see a lot of in the books, like you can control how much you want to exercise. You can control if you want to eat bad food. You can actually eat good food. And it's like, it's when I was reading it, I was even like, but what if you're like, you know, you can't afford good food? Like I was like, what? And then, but then some things they say is really, really, really helpful. And then some things is actually like, it's not, I think it's like not, I think not trauma informed.
Yeah. Yeah, at the end of the day, it is actually true, isn't it? Like we do all make those choices, but it's about the environment in which we do that. Does the environment and society that we're in support us making more healthy choices or not?
So it's kind of like with alcohol, people go, oh, just stop. Just stop.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you don't need any community support. That's silly. Just stop drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's more like being a fat person all my life. It's I can eat healthy. Like I love eating healthy. My body craves it, but I also like eat too much. And that's more psychological than it is you know, so it's harder to stop. So it is like an addiction sort of thing. Like I'm not making excuses, but it does come back to like psychological things that you have to work out in order to get on the right track.
Yeah. And also, Karen, like I remember working with a woman years ago in some sort of family support role, and she was an extremely large woman, and they would have takeout every night. I don't know really how they afforded it, but I remember once getting in this conversation with her about, she'd go, but Michelle, like a Red Rooster family meal, that is cheaper than buying the stuff and doing it yourself. I said, want to bet? Let's do it.
There was this time there, I think it was during lockdown, where Happy Meals were like $4 or something. So it was for me to get me and my daughter a Happy Meal of a night, then cook dinner if I wasn't like, because during lockdown I wasn't feeling the best, like wanting to do things. So it was cheaper for us to just go do that. So we'd have it like 3 times a week. And I'm like, no, this has got to stop. So,
But it is about the environment you're in. So up here, I couldn't, you know, like it'd be a big effort to do that because there are no McDonald's. But in places like around Mount Druitt, there's one on every corner. Yeah, so it makes it, so the environment makes it very easy to make those choices. So that's what that's about. So that dominant ideologies of individualism is about, well, it's all up to you. It's got nothing to do with the environment, but it does. And it's those social determinants. What about another thing in there? What's poverty got to do with it? How would poverty be a risk factor, Sam?
I'm sorry, I don't know the last speaker's name, so I don't mean to offend, but poverty is that, or could also be that thing about thinking that it's cheaper to go and buy the red rooster chicken rather than make it for myself with fresh veggies at home.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And like Catherine's written, unhealthy foods can be cheaper than fresh fruit and vegetables. Yeah, at the moment, I think that's possibly true, depending what you're buying. So if you're poor, you go for the cheaper option. Yeah. But it's also, maybe it's linked to having transport, to get to a fruit and veggie store. It's about, like, I don't know, just going back to Mount Druitt, it's hard to find a fruit and veggie store on its own. Like, there's the one on the highway at Minchinbury, but they're hidden away. They're not like fast food things, which are just everywhere. Yeah. Jackie?
Yeah, for the risk condition of poverty, I feel like access and financial security have a lot to determine that, because living in poverty can sometimes mean no license, no car. And if you have small children and a number of small children, that makes public transport access really hard. Shopping at Woolworths, places like Woolworths or Coles, is like very expensive. Aldi's like not really close to a lot of people. So therefore you go to the local IGA, which is more expensive than Woolworths and Coles.
Yeah.
And then looking at how much food costs, I think, like Karen, we might as well go get a Happy Meal, it's cheaper, not really thinking about the associated health risks at the time, because you're just thinking about feeding your family.
Yep, that's right. And maybe lack of education comes into that on some level as well, just about, and skills being developed to know how to cook a healthy meal for cheap. Like, I don't know, like
that's a big part that comes into it, Michelle. Like, if you've never been taught to cook cheap, healthy meals, like sometimes you can put a meal together for $10. If you're not taught how to do that and then have no cooking skills on top of that, how do you do that? How do you go about doing that? It's like, I don't know how. I'll just go to the takeaway store and get hot chips and barbecue sauce seems to be the thing. I grew up in Mount Druitt, so I know exactly what it can get like, and hot chips and barbecue sauce were the favourite.
Yeah, and we know, don't we, like how it's got no nutritional value whatsoever. High calories, but they're empty calories. Yeah, exactly. Ruby?
I was going to say, it's almost quite cruel how, like, the suburbs know what kind of people will eat what. It's actually quite horrible, because where I live, Richmond, we have one McDonald's, and for me, it's like when I feel like McDonald's, because that's like 2-3 times a week. I'm like, I've got to drive like 20 minutes to get there. And then you see heaps of like fruit and veggie shops. So every second shop is a fresh food store. And I'm like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
So it's quite cruel how, like, you go into the Penrith area and then you see McDonald's every 5 minutes.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, it's just cruel how everyone knows.
Yeah, those businesses, they often do target those poorer communities because they know their sales will be higher.
Yeah.
Sam?
Yeah, I was just going to, Jackie made a point just earlier about how, you've got kids, it's hard to get around sometimes and things like that. I also think, when you suggest to people that don't make as much money, you might be better off cooking a healthy meal. People just say, my kids wouldn't eat that. kids will eat a Happy Meal, but they won't sit there and eat peas and carrots. So it's all like that instant gratification instead of getting kids to like veggie. It's like it's easier to bypass that. And
Yeah.
yeah.
But if all you've known from a young age is the option meal, then your taste buds have been trained.
Exactly.
High sugar content food, which is what that is, because it's high carb, and high carbs turn to sugar. So our bodies turn them sugar. So yeah, that's right. We better move on because there's a lot to say here. But are you starting to sort of see how, there could be programs, for instance, that target some of the issues that we're talking about? Yeah. So, we've been talking a lot about eating, so that you could understand how there would be certain groups in our community who are more at risk for, the high carb, the takeaway stuff. And so there might be groups or programs that you could do which are health promoting or early intervening to target that particular issue. Yeah. What about psychosocial risk factors? So they're things like isolation, lack of social support, poor networks, low perceived power, loss of meaning, low self-esteem. What are your thoughts around those as some of the risk factors, and what could we do? Sam?
Oh, sorry, I just had my hand left up. Sorry.
That's all right. What about someone else? No, so they're more about, our social circumstances and our personal psychology, aren't they? So there might be things that one could do at a variety of levels that increase people's connection with others. Okay, so that would be something that we could do there, that try to improve people's self-esteem and work on that sense of loss of meaning or purpose. Sam, now your hand's up, is that right?
Yeah, I was just thinking with the low self-esteem and the isolation and things, just say, someone who's overweight, and I don't mind saying it because I am, but
hold on. Tia, you've got to keep your mic off. Sorry, but it really is bad. Yep.
So, yeah, I was just thinking maybe somebody like that wouldn't want to go perhaps to do healthy things. Like they wouldn't want to go to a gym because they might feel, like, oh, this is a place where I don't belong, because, everyone that goes to a gym is really fit and healthy, and and that's how gyms are promoted. They're promoted to healthy people. I mean, you don't see any overweight people on an ad for a gym, so something like that maybe.
Yeah. That's right. And so having community run programs, that reduce that feeling of, I don't know, stigma or whatever you want to call it, it could be really useful because, they might be less threatening for people. Yeah. And things like park runs where you can walk, you don't have to run, just those sort of things. Yeah. Jackie, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to, on the back of what Samantha was saying, how gyms are advertised to healthy people, same as gym clothes. They're all advertised for the size 6 to 8 woman, who I just don't feel is the average size woman in Australia.
Not at all.
It makes women, and I know I'm speaking for myself when I say this, it makes me feel worse about myself than what I originally did before I went out shopping. It happened. It happened to me the other Friday, and I was like, I don't even know where I fit in society now, because stores are promoting these clothes that just don't fit my age or size.
Yep, that's right. And that's our capitalist world. Hey, it just drives the one thing for the one type of person with the one image. It's crazy. I agree with you, Jackie. I've been through the whole same thing. It's soul destroying. We've got to get our power back, ladies. We do. Okay, let's move on. So some of those behavioural risk factors, and I think we've been speaking about them as we go. They're the pretty obvious ones, hey? So smoking, poor nutrition, physical inactivity, and substance abuse. And then there's the physiological risk factors, so having high blood pressure, hypertension, high cholesterol, release of stress hormones, and these elevated levels of fibrinogen, which is a protein which they find in the liver, and it indicates elevated levels of inflammation, and inflammation in any level in your body is an indication of health problems, okay, because your body's trying to fight that issue. All right, so let's move on. Let's look at the determinants of health. So it's about having health promoting conditions, health promoting mediating structures, healthy lifestyles, and these reoriented health services, which lead to that improved mortality, morbidity, and an increase in well-being. So if we have a look at some of these, so health promoting conditions are things like our ecosystem and how viable and sustainable it is and available to us it is. Having economic sufficiency, so having money enough. Having public policies which are equitable, meaning that everyone has access, but if you're at some level of disadvantage, you might have a bit more access than others. Yeah. Having convivial communities. So does anyone know what that means? So I guess having communities that get along, you know, rather than living in communities with a high level of anger or bitterness or hostility, you know, just generally in the community. And having sustainable development. So, you know, I think Penrith is at a point of no return, you know, like it's become so big. There's just development everywhere, you know, all through that Marsden Park everywhere. It's not really sustainable, is it? So they are the things that, if we get it right, they promote health in our community at large. And health promoting mediating structures are things like having caring relationships, having respect for other people, and, you know, just generally back at you, having public institutions that support social capital, okay, which means the people, yeah, and how we treat people in those organisations, how healthy workplaces, those sorts of things. Having generosity towards others, having self-help groups, yeah, and having service for other people. We know that when you help other people, it helps yourself, possibly more than you're helping the other person. Having healthy lifestyles, so public policies that support smoke-free places and lives, green agricultural food policies, and town planning to promote physical fitness. So I know that, you know, the city's a mess. I know the city's a mess, but I know that one of the things that they're trying to do is increase bike lanes and stuff like that to make it easier for people to ride to work, for instance. Reoriented health services, so having some medical self-care, community-based primary health care, we talked a bit about that, and effective personal care services at the secondary and tertiary level. So some of those things are the things that are protective factors in terms of those determinants of health. So we need to make time to talk about your assessment, and we need to have a break. So I'm just going to move on because we will come back to these risk and protective factors again next week. But this is what's known as the health iceberg. And it's around the link between the conditions of people's lives and the healthy outcomes they do or don't experience. So whilst there's health at the top, our health is informed by, firstly, values, assumptions and beliefs, and then all of these things in the middle that determine what our ultimate health outcomes will be. So, for instance, we know that the higher educational level you have, the better health outcomes you have, because you're able to find information that you need. You're able to interpret that information or check it out to see whether it's correct or not. You know, you've got some of those skills. We know that, you know, if you work, your health outcomes are likely to be higher. Of course, the type of work has an impact there. So you could be in a really high-risk job. Usually they're the lower paid, unskilled jobs. So your risks will be higher there. But generally speaking, if you're working, you've got better health outcomes. Why?
You can get like private health insurance.
Okay, so that could be one, although a lot of working people, I can't afford it. A lot of working people can't even afford it now, but that could be one thing. So that might increase your access to some health services. What do you think, Jackie?
I think if you're working, you're more connected to other people. You have a routine. You're getting up in the morning. You know, you're moving your body, which stimulates the mind. And then, you know, you come home and you're healthy, tired. You go to bed. You have a good sleep routine. I think that's working is healthy.
Yep. And when you work, you get
paid.
So you've got more money to make healthier choices. So they're linked, aren't they? That sort of employment and your income, I guess. Yeah. So that's how some of those things impact. Okay. We'll finish on this and then we need to look at your assessment. So I'll play this quickly just to finish off. Might just do that.
This video looks at the determinants of health. The syllabus asks you to learn about individual factors, socio-cultural factors, socio-economic factors, and environmental factors. Your Learn To asks you to analyse how an individual's health can be determined by a range of factors acting in various combinations. Individual factors include the person's attitudes, knowledge, skills, genetics, and personal characteristics. A person who knows that health includes 5 interacting dimensions and understands what a good diet is and the recommended levels of physical activity is more likely to have good health. In addition to this, if they have a positive attitude towards health, want to achieve it and see the lifelong benefits, then they are more likely to attain health. This is because healthy choices take self-discipline, determination and resilience to make them consistently. If a person also has skills relating to health, such as research skills or skills related to critiquing information, they are more likely to be able to make healthy choices. Finally, genetics is a key individual factor that determines health. A history of poor health in the family or good health can make a person more susceptible to disease or illness. Social cultural factors are family, peers, media, religion, and culture. Much of the social cultural factors are rooted in your family heritage. Your parents and siblings will have a huge impact on your choice of religion, your culture, and sometimes what media you consume. So if your family value health, are knowledgeable and skilled in health, you are more likely to be as well. Your peers create an environment around you that will also influence your health choices. This is not so much them telling you directly what to do, but simply by you following the crowd and wanting to fit in. Marketing campaigns and other information shared across the media will also influence your health and help shape both your perception of health and your actions relating to it. Finally, a sense of connectedness or belonging can greatly influence your health. People who belong to religious groups or a culture with strong social ties help to increase health outcomes due to increased self-worth and social health. Socioeconomic factors include employment, education, and income. Each of these relate to the other, but basically, if you have higher levels of education, you have greater personal knowledge and skills to use in relation to health choices. If you have a job in sport and recreation, you are more likely to have good health compared to those who work in high-risk jobs, such as truck driving or mining. Higher levels of income will also affect your access to health-related products and services and can influence other activities as well. For example, a poor teenager may not be able to afford to go to the movies with their friends, leaving them socially isolated and feeling alone. Geographical location, access to health services and technology are environmental factors that affect your health. If you live in a place that has little access to fresh food, people your own age, or health services, such as in rural Australia, then you are more likely to have poorer health. However, if you have access to health services and technology, you can be treated more easily when sick and can recover faster from accidents. Even just having access to the internet allows you to find health information that is up to date and accurate, provided you know how to critique information. Each of the determinants has various factors that overlap and affect other determinants. For example, a person who has a high level of education and a high-paying job can afford to live in a nicer house in a nicer area, with access to cafes and the beach. This person will also have a larger knowledge base around health and a good skill set to make healthy choices. But of course, they could have terrible genetics inherited from parents who died young from heart attacks after eating lots of takeaway at home with their children. They could also align more with Western Anglo-Saxon culture with a low value of family connection and community.
All right, so that's sort of I've tried to put that in to try and sum together those determinants and how they are very interrelating. And, you know, it's different in different individuals, obviously, and groups. Okay, but let's have a look at your assessment. Do you guys want to get that out? And I'll just try and find it. What will I do? I'll go to the Moodle. Okay, so this is the unit guide. I presume you've all read it by now. I mean, we did have a look at it together. Were there specific questions that people had, or did you want me to talk about it generally? I'm just not clear what you want.
Michelle, are you still going to show us an example of the other students from last year? I think it will just give us a great understanding of what we're up against and what you want from us.
Can I do that next week in class? Like we'll be actually there?
Yep.
That might be nicer. Yes, so okay, note to me, I'll just write that down. So student example next week. Student example 009 next week. Yep, I will do that. So, but Catherine says, can you just go over the whole thing in general? Like basically what you're being asked to do is come up with an idea that really is seeking to either promote health, intervene early to improve health outcomes in a particular group of people. And as I hope you're starting to see, that can be pretty broadly interpreted, yeah, because health is linked to so many things. So as we started to look at the risk factors and protective factors and those social determinants, I mean, there's some of the things that I imagine that you would be tackling. So it says that you need to research and gather information to determine a health and wellbeing issue and need. That means that you've got to find that there's a real issue out there or a real need in order to address it, okay? You're not pretending, you're finding one. And then you're going to basically determine how you're going to address it, and you're going to structure and document a program that does that, and you're going to present it to the class. So in more detail, I'm going to see if I can make that a bit bigger. It says to select a health issue which is of a community concern. It must be real and it must be faced by the community where if it's not addressed, it can impact negatively on that group's mental health and well-being. Okay, so what my tip was to think quite discreetly. You know, like some of the things we've talked about so far have been really broad things that are, I guess, targeting the broader population generally. That's a bit hard. Don't do that, people, okay? So think about a discrete group. Some of the things that people have done in the past have been on, for instance, a discrete group like young women from African backgrounds. That's a pretty discrete group. But then my suggestion to that student was, well, not all young women from African backgrounds, because how are you going to access them? You're not. But it might be young women from African backgrounds in the Mount Druitt area, you know, and a particular health issue that they have. So that's what I mean by that. So if you were doing that issue, you'd have to find out what the health concerns of that group are, and then come up with a way to try and address that. Sam?
I was just going to ask if, you know, the Clontarf Foundation, if that was, that's a fairly appropriate size. What did you think? It's not too big?
No. So what were your thoughts about a health need of the groups that are targeted by the Clontarf Foundation?
Why are
you thinking the Clontarf Foundation?
I know about those. I know about them because of the school that my kids go to, and the Clontarf Foundation do a lot of work with the Aboriginal kids that go there, and they get them into programs like boxing before school or after school to give them more self-esteem, so that they're bonding with other kids that go to other schools as well. And it's not just Aboriginal kids that they take other kids that are sort of marginalised at the school.
So what you're describing is basically a strategy like I want you to come up with. But, you know, the Clontarf Foundation you can't do because they're doing the programs, you know, like I want you to come up with one. So it might be, you know, Aboriginal kindergarten students at Tregear Public School. I don't know, whatever your thing is, you know. So, but you need to think about an area, and you need to think about, well, what are the needs of that group? I mean, we just talked about discrimination. Maybe that's an issue, you know, that you're trying to address in that age group. I don't know.
I'm just a little bit confused though.
Yes.
So I can't do the Clontarf Foundation because they're already doing stuff, but I need to find another organisation that's already doing stuff.
No, you don't need to find an organisation that's doing stuff. You need to find a population or a group that has a health need and come up with program, you know, or some sort of way to address that issue.
Okay, I get that now.
Yeah. So anyway, so what you need to do then is you need to get some data, and we'll do a lesson on where can you get data, and we might, if we're back at TAFE, maybe we'll go down the library and have a bit of a go there. So you need to get the evidence to show me that that's an issue for that group of people, all right? And then you have to make sure that you've got some references for that. And then you need to find out, well, what is the evidence for how this could be addressed effectively? So you need to try and, I'll give you an example here. So if it was that you were trying to address obesity in people with a mental health issue, you know, in the Penrith area, I don't know, making it up, you need to find out, well, what works in addressing obesity? You need to do a bit of research and find out what the evidence says. Okay, and then you're linking those two things together. So then from that sort of research base, so you've researched what the issue is and you've kind of researched what some of the evidence is for addressing issues such as that, then you develop a program plan and outline. Okay, so if mine was addressing, I don't know, I've got to make it up. If mine was addressing, we were talking earlier today about consent. So I might want to develop a program that targets Year 7 girls and boys or whatever in the Penrith LGA, okay? I know it's a problem because I've found out that there's not a lot of information available to young people around that information. There's a lot of misinformation. I do a bit of research in how do you run sort of programs in addressing that age group, you know, what works. And then I'm going to come up with a 10-week program that runs in a, I don't know, I'll think about it, runs in a like a youth service in the local areas that engages young people on that issue. And if it's 10 weeks, I'm going to show you what I'll be doing each week. Week 1, we're going to do get to know you stuff. We're going to talk about us. Week 2, we're going to do this. Week 3, you know what I mean? Does that sort of, yeah? But basically, when you put your program outline together, it needs to cover all of those areas, and you've got to present it to us. So the way I like to see it is that you're sort of presenting this as an idea to run. You know, pretend I'm your boss and you're coming to me to go, hey, I reckon this is something we could do here in our organisation. Here is why I think it's needed, and here's what I think we should do. So it's like you're pitching it to me.
Yep.
Does that make sense? And I will show you an example next week, which hopefully will help solidify it a bit in your mind. Because your class times I'm going to start turning into time in class that you can actually work on this. So that I'm there. I think a lot of people, because I've taught this a bit now, have trouble in where to find information and getting ideas and stuff like that. So we'll start devoting a bit of time and to it. And Jackie, was your hand up?
Yeah, okay, I just have a few questions. So I feel like I understand it because I actually have my target group. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be doing a program to address postnatal depression in young mums in the Mount Druitt area.
Okay.
And so that's my target for the program. So that then the program goals will be what I want to achieve out of that group I'm going to run. And the program of objectives, what's that about?
So like your overarching aim or goal will be to, raise awareness.
Okay, raise awareness.
Depression and help-seeking behaviour amongst that age group. Okay. And then your objectives are how you're going to do it. I'm going to educate. I'm going to, I don't know, whatever other things. And then under those objectives, you usually have the strategies. Well, how am I going to educate that group? Yeah. So first of all, Jackie, if it was that topic, you'd need to show evidence that it's an issue for younger people, either that the incidences of postnatal depression are higher or that help-seeking behaviour is lower, you know, in that particular age group, that they don't have access maybe to programs in the local area, or they don't know about health services in their local areas. Yeah, something like that. And it's probably true that younger parents, and I'm making it up a little bit, you can find the truth of it, don't access health services at the rate that other people do, you know, and there is a gap in their education and level of awareness about such issues, and how postnatal depression, if left untreated, can be quite serious, very serious.
Yeah.
And can also impact their child or children.
Yeah. Okay. So the stakeholders, are they, I'm a bit confused of what, it just said stakeholders, like what does that actually mean?
So who has an interest in what you're doing, do you think?
So the broader community, the service that I want to run out of, is that what you mean?
Yep.
Okay.
Stakeholders might be other people that want to fund it. You know, it might be health. It might be youth programs. Like, you need people to know about it so you get a client base. And there will be people who'd be interested in your type of work, that work, because it impacts their work as well.
Sure.
Yeah. And there might be particular, even in amongst that group, there might be even higher risk people, like there might be young people with substance use disorders who also have children, you know, like there could be a whole group of stakeholders around them, you know. It could be AOD services that have contact with young women. Yeah.
And we're not going out and asking these, we're just putting it in there like we've just done it. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Like you're imagining, but you're imagining based on some evidence and some research.
Yep. Okay. And last question, just the program action plan. Is this just dealing like who we're going to, what's involved, where we're holding it, and the resources we're going to use within the program?
Yeah. So you know how like last semester we were doing like work plans?
Yeah.
It's a bit like that, but I will show you what another student did for that so you get an idea. Yeah.
Thank you.
Does that answer the questions that you had, Catherine? So you've got yes, you do. So this is like a practice go, because when you do your work placement, you'll really be doing this. Not this exact one, like you'll do one in your workplace that is relevant to that workplace. Okay. And what's a proposal? Well, like I was saying, it's like your where are you reading the proposal word? What page? It's all I mean by that is that you're putting it together like you're proposing to run this. Here's an idea that I think we should do in our service. That's a proposal. Yeah. I hope that answers the questions that you had. I'm just going to stop recording.